Nestled along the rugged coastlines and nestled in the heart of rolling countryside, Britain's historic towns are far more than picturesque relics of the past. They are living testaments to centuries of change, conflict, and cultural evolution. From the haunting ruins of Whitby Abbey, where ancient decisions reshaped the course of Christianity, to the towering walls of Conwy Castle, built to assert royal power over a proud Welsh nation, these towns have borne witness to some of history's most defining moments. Each stone, each cobbled street tells a story of faith, struggle, ambition, and resilience, offering a glimpse into the diverse threads that have woven the fabric of the nation we know today. Join us as we journey through these captivating towns, where the echoes of the past continue to shape the present. Britain's landscape is dotted with towns whose cobbled streets, crumbling ruins, and centuries-old buildings tell stories of conquest, resilience, culture, and innovation. But what makes a town historic? Is it simply age, or is it the depth of its involvement in shaping the narrative of a nation? The answer lies in a combination of factors: time, architecture, people, and events, that together give certain towns a special status in the cultural and historical imagination of Britain. A historic town is not defined by antiquity alone. Many settlements in Britain are thousands of years old, but only some have played pivotal roles in the country's evolution, politically, religiously, economically, or intellectually. These towns have been witnesses to great events and movements, from Roman colonization and medieval warfare to industrial innovation and cultural revolution. They have hosted monarchs and martyrs, scholars and soldiers, artists and revolutionaries. Their buildings, institutions, and even their street layouts preserve echoes of the past. A historic town, therefore, is one that serves as a living archive, a place where history is not just remembered but embodied in daily life. To understand the richness of Britain's historic towns, we must first recognize that Britain itself is a layered civilization. Its history is a palimpsest, one cultural layer written over another, often partially erasing what came before but never fully removing it. The earliest known Britons were Celtic tribes, whose hill forts and sacred groves left a spiritual and linguistic imprint. Their presence is still felt in place names and folklore. Then came the Romans, who brought roads, baths, and walled cities, foundations upon which many towns like Chester and Bath were built. With the decline of Roman rule came the Anglo-Saxons, who established kingdoms and created some of the earliest administrative divisions of the land. Their wooden settlements often formed the nuclei of towns like Winchester and Oxford. The Vikings followed, carving out the Danelaw and influencing places like York, Jorvik, bringing Norse language and trade networks. The Norman conquest in 1066 transformed Britain's landscape once again, introducing stone castles and cathedrals that reshaped town skylines. The Tudor era brought with it religious reform, maritime expansion, and cultural flowering, reflected in towns such as Stratford-upon-Avon, the birthplace of Shakespeare. The Georgian and Victorian periods further layered the country with neoclassical elegance and industrial might, giving rise to planned towns, grand terraces, railways, and docks. In towns like Bath and Liverpool, these layers are visible, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in contrast, creating a complex and beautiful record of human endeavor across centuries. While cities like London, Edinburgh, and Belfast often dominate narratives of national development, it is the towns that collectively define the true heart of Britain. Towns served as the administrative, religious, commercial, and cultural hubs around which rural regions revolved. They provided the settings for many of Britain's most formative moments, be they royal coronations, scientific discoveries, revolutionary uprisings, or literary creations. Unlike cities, which often expand rapidly and obliterate their past in favor of progress, historic towns are more likely to preserve their ancient identities. Their human scale, walkability, and sense of community provide an intimate connection to history. Walking through such towns is not just a visual experience, it's emotional and intellectual. You're not just observing old walls, you're tracing the footsteps of generations. Towns such as Durham, with its castle and cathedral, reflect the once indivisible link between faith and authority. Places like Cambridge and Oxford speak to centuries of intellectual pursuit, where some of the most groundbreaking ideas in science, philosophy, and politics were born. In Canterbury, one finds the roots of English Christianity and the enduring legacy of Chaucer's Pilgrims. Whitby connects us to the Gothic imagination through Bram Stoker's Dracula, while Stirling represents Scottish defiance and identity. Each town, in its own way, contributes to a patchwork of national consciousness. Preserving these historic towns is not an exercise in nostalgia, it is a cultural necessity. In an age of rapid urban development and globalization, the uniqueness of historic towns offers a powerful antidote to homogeneity. They are not only reminders of where we came from but lessons in continuity, resilience, and identity. From an educational perspective, historic towns serve as open-air classrooms. They allow historians, students, tourists, and locals to interact with history in a tangible way. Rather than reading about Roman Britain, one can walk the walls of Chester. Rather than imagining medieval pilgrimage, one can follow the route to Canterbury. Rather than learning about the English Civil War from textbooks, one can explore Oxford, the royalist capital. Economically, too, historic towns are vital. They drive tourism, support local businesses, and create jobs in conservation, heritage management, and education. Their aesthetic and architectural charm also contributes to well-being, attracting people to live in or near them. However, this growing popularity must be balanced with care. Over-tourism, poorly managed development, and lack of funding for preservation can all endanger what makes these places special. In this video, we have selected towns not purely on the basis of age or size, but based on their historical depth, architectural integrity, cultural influence, and role in significant national events. Each town chosen represents a distinct aspect of Britain's history. Whether it's Roman infrastructure, religious transformation, military significance, educational legacy, maritime power, or literary and artistic impact. Some towns, like Lincoln, have histories stretching from Roman times through to the Industrial Revolution. Others, like Stratford-upon-Avon, are tied to one exceptional figure, but have become global icons because of that association. Conwy, with its pristine medieval walls, stands as a monument to Edwardian military strategy, while Derry reminds us of modern struggles and reconciliation in Northern Ireland. This is not an exhaustive list of every historic town in Britain. Rather, it is a curated journey through some of the most representative and emblematic places that, when viewed together, offer a panoramic understanding of Britain's past. Chester, Roman legacy preserved. Chester, known in antiquity as Deva Victrix, was founded around AD 79 during the Roman conquest of Britain. It served as a key Roman fortress and later evolved into a major civilian settlement. Strategically located on the River Dee, its purpose was military, housing Legio XX Valeria Victrix, one of the most formidable Roman legions. The name Deva derived from the river goddess, while Victrix paid homage to the legion stationed there. The Romans constructed the settlement with the classic castrum layout, a rectangular grid pattern with central intersecting streets, a hallmark of Roman urban planning. Deva Victrix boasted extensive defensive walls, granaries, barracks, and administrative buildings. Its role was not merely martial. Chester was a symbol of Roman authority in the northwest and a springboard for campaigns into Wales. Even today, the footprint of Roman Chester is visible. Walking through the city, one is quite literally tracing the lines drawn nearly 2,000 years ago by Roman engineers. Archaeological discoveries, such as altars, inscriptions, and coins, have further enhanced Chester's status as a key site for understanding Roman Britain. One of Chester's most remarkable features is its city wall, much of which follows the original Roman fortification lines. These walls, standing up to 12 feet high in some sections, are the most complete set of city walls in Britain. You can walk nearly 2 miles along their perimeter, enjoying sweeping views of the city and countryside, just as Roman soldiers once did. The Roman amphitheater at Chester is another highlight. Partially excavated, it remains the largest known amphitheater in Britain, capable of seating around 7,000 spectators. It served not just for entertainment, like gladiator contests and animal hunts, but also for military training and possibly religious ceremonies. Adjacent to the amphitheater are the remains of Roman baths, once part of a larger complex. Though less visually dramatic than other ruins, these baths illustrate the sophisticated lifestyle Roman citizens enjoyed, even in distant outposts like Chester. The hypocaust system, underfloor heating, is a marvel of ancient engineering still studied today. Chester's street grid, inherited from the Romans, continues to define its layout. The main roads, Via Praetoria and Via Principalis, are now modern shopping streets, but their straightness and orientation are unmistakably Roman. With the collapse of Roman Britain in the early 5th century, Chester declined but was never fully abandoned. It resurfaced in the Anglo-Saxon period as a fortified town, and gained renewed strategic importance. King Ethelflaed of Mercia, daughter of Alfred the Great, refortified Chester against Viking incursions around AD 907. By the medieval period, Chester was flourishing again. It became a center of trade, pilgrimage, and religious activity. The city's most iconic medieval building is Chester Cathedral, originally a Benedictine abbey founded in the 11th century. Rebuilt and expanded in Gothic style, the cathedral features soaring vaults, intricate wood carvings, and stained glass windows. It became the seat of a bishopric in 1541 after Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries. The medieval rows are another feature unique to Chester. These are double-level arcaded galleries that allow for shopping on 2 floors, protected from the weather. Built largely between the 13th and 14th centuries, they are found nowhere else in the world in such form. Chester's architectural glory continued into the Tudor period. Many timber-framed houses from this era still survive, often built on stone undercrofts that date back to the medieval period. These black and white buildings became iconic representations of Chester's historical character. In the 19th century, the city experienced a black and white revival, part of a broader Gothic and medieval Romanticism sweeping through Victorian Britain. Architects deliberately constructed new buildings in mock Tudor style to blend with Chester's authentic structures, giving the city a unified historic aesthetic. This romantic reconstruction was part of a growing awareness of heritage preservation and civic pride. Today, Chester is a model of historical conservation. Efforts to preserve its Roman, medieval, and Tudor legacy are supported by local government and heritage bodies. Museums such as the Grosvenor Museum and the Dua Roman Experience offer immersive insights into Chester's past. Tourism thrives in the city thanks to its walkable walls, amphitheater, cathedral, and the Rows. Events like the Roman Festival, complete with reenactments, draw crowds eager to step back in time. Chester maintains a delicate balance between being a living city and a preserved historical monument, making it a jewel in Britain's historic crown. Bath, the Georgian gem. Nestled in the rolling hills of Somerset, Bath is perhaps the most elegant of Britain's historic towns. Originally known as Aquae Sulis, it was a Roman spa town built around natural hot springs, the only ones of their kind in Britain. The Romans arrived in the 1st century AD and were quick to recognize the spiritual and physical value of the springs. They associated the bubbling waters with the Celtic goddess Sulis, whom they equated with their own goddess Minerva. At the center of Roman Bath was the Grand Bathing Complex, a feat of engineering that included the Great Bath, hot rooms Caldaria, cold plunge pools Frigidaria, and even steam rooms. The site also housed a temple to Sulis Minerva, blending Roman and native religious practices. The Roman baths remain astonishingly well-preserved and are among the most visited heritage sites in the UK. The museum at the site features Roman artifacts such as cursed tablets, coins, and mosaics, offering a vivid picture of life in Aquae Sulis. The thermal water still flows through the ancient plumbing, linking the past to the present in an almost mythic continuity. After centuries of decline and sporadic medieval use, Bath saw a dramatic revival in the 18th century, transforming into a fashionable resort town for the British elite. This was largely due to the efforts of entrepreneurs and visionaries like Richard Beau Nash, the self-appointed master of ceremonies who dictated social rules and curated the city's entertainment. At the same time, Bath underwent a building boom under the guidance of architects John Wood the Elder and John Wood the Younger. They designed Bath to reflect classical harmony and order, inspired by ancient Rome and Palladian principles. The resulting Georgian architecture is a triumph of urban planning and aesthetic elegance. Two of Bath's most iconic architectural achievements from this period are the Royal Crescent and the Circus. The Royal Crescent, designed by John Wood the Younger and completed in 1774, is a sweeping curve of 30 terraced houses set on a green overlooking the city. Built in golden Bath stone, its uniform facade is one of the finest examples of Georgian architecture in the world. Despite its cohesive exterior, each house was internally unique, reflecting the individuality of its wealthy occupants. The Circus, begun by John Wood the Elder and completed by his son, consists of 3 segments of a circle forming a complete ring of townhouses. Inspired by the Colosseum in Rome, the circus was meant to evoke grandeur, symmetry, and continuity. Its decorative friezes, featuring acorns, serpents, and classical motifs, display a remarkable attention to detail. Together, these structures exemplify Georgian ideals: order, proportion, and a reverence for antiquity. One of the town's most famous residents was Jane Austen, who lived in Bath from 1801 to 1806. Though Austen's personal experiences in Bath were mixed, she often found the city stifling and overly concerned with status. The city plays a prominent role in her novels Northanger Abbey and Persuasion. Bath serves as a social microcosm in Austen's fiction, a place where characters navigate courtship, ambition, and etiquette. The pump room and assembly rooms feature prominently, illustrating the rituals of polite society. Today, the Jane Austen Center in Bath celebrates her legacy, and the annual Jane Austen Festival attracts fans from around the world. In 1987, Bath was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognizing its unique blend of Roman remains and Georgian town planning. UNESCO praised Bath's integrity, noting that it exemplifies the ambitions of urban development in the 18th century, while preserving its ancient roots. Bath is one of only a handful of entire cities to receive this status, and it is also part of the Great Spas of Europe World Heritage listing, underscoring its international historical significance. In the Georgian period, Bath was more than just beautiful, it was fashionable. The town's reputation as a place to take the waters attracted royalty, politicians, writers, and socialites. Bath became synonymous with elegance, wit, and refinement. The assembly rooms hosted balls, card games, and concerts. Fashion was central to Bath's appeal. The latest London styles were paraded daily in venues like the Pump Room, where visitors sipped mineral water while socializing. Bath's spa culture was as much about leisure and networking as it was about health. Doctors prescribed bathing and drinking the mineral-rich waters for ailments ranging from gout to infertility. The rituals of spa-going influenced the very rhythms of daily life. Today, Bath continues this tradition with the Thermi Bath Spa, a modern facility that allows visitors to enjoy the naturally warm waters just as the Romans and Georgians once did. Though contemporary in design, it reinforces the city's age-old identity as a place of healing and beauty. York, the Viking and medieval powerhouse. York, one of England's most historic and culturally rich cities, began its urban journey as Eboracum, a Roman military base founded in AD 71 by the 9th Legion. Strategically positioned at the confluence of the rivers Ouse and Foss, it served as a vital fortress in the Roman province of Britannia. The city quickly grew in stature and importance, becoming the headquarters of the 6th Legion and ultimately rising to the status of a Roman provincial capital. Eboracum was constructed according to classic Roman design, with a rectangular fortress layout, imposing defensive walls, a basilica, baths, and temples. Roman influence permeated every aspect of life, from infrastructure and economy to religion and governance. Emperors such as Septimius Severus and Constantius Chlorus even governed the Western Roman Empire from York, underscoring the city's immense strategic and political importance. The city's Roman roots are still visible today. The multangular tower in the museum gardens, segments of the Roman walls, and mosaics all testify to York's ancient legacy. Archaeological finds, including inscriptions and tombstones, add human dimension to what was once a bustling Roman town, filled with merchants, soldiers, and families from all over the empire. After the Romans withdrew in the 5th century, York fell into decline before experiencing a stunning revival under the Vikings. In 866 AD, the Great Heathen Army seized the city, renaming it Jorvik. It soon became the capital of the Viking-controlled region of England, known as the Danelaw. Under Viking rule, Jorvik became a thriving commercial hub, drawing traders from across Scandinavia, Ireland, and continental Europe. Artifacts from this period, jewelry, combs, tools, and coins, reveal a cosmopolitan society deeply connected to the wider Norse world. Excavations at Coppergate have uncovered well-preserved timber buildings and streets, showing the Vikings' sophisticated urban planning and craftsmanship. Jorvik's importance wasn't solely economic. It also served as a political stronghold, a cultural melting pot, and a center of Norse religion before the Christian reconversion of the region. The legacy of this era lives on today, most famously through the Jorvik Viking Center, an interactive museum built on the original archaeological site that reconstructs Viking streets with astonishing realism. The Norman conquest of 1066 brought profound changes to York. William the Conqueror faced fierce resistance in the north and responded with devastating force, most notoriously in the harrying of the north, which led to widespread destruction in and around the city. However, once pacified, York was rapidly rebuilt as a symbol of Norman power. The construction of York Minster, the magnificent Gothic cathedral that dominates the city's skyline, began in 1080 on the site of an earlier church. Over the next 400 years, the Minster evolved into one of the largest and most ornate cathedrals in Northern Europe. Built primarily in limestone, it showcases exquisite Gothic architecture, including flying buttresses, ribbed vaults, and one of the finest collections of medieval stained glass windows. The Great East Window alone is a masterpiece of 15th-century craftsmanship. York Minster was not only a religious center, but also a seat of immense political influence. The Archbishop of York became the second most powerful cleric in England after the Archbishop of Canterbury. From royal marriages and political intrigues to the burial of kings, the Minster was a central stage for medieval English life. Beyond the cathedral, York flourished in the medieval period as a commercial and civic center. The layout of the city, with its winding streets, market squares, and timber-framed houses, largely dates from this era. Among these, the Shambles stands out as one of the best-preserved medieval streets in Europe. Originally home to butchers and meat vendors, the Shambles takes its name from the Anglo-Saxon word shamel, meaning a shelf on which goods were displayed. Buildings on either side of the street lean toward each other, their upper stories nearly touching, creating a charming and immersive medieval atmosphere. Shambles Market nearby continues the tradition of open-air commerce, though today it offers artisanal goods and street food rather than freshly slaughtered livestock. This mix of ancient ambience and modern enterprise captures the essence of York as a living historical city. In the 15th century, York was a key player in the Wars of the Roses, a dynastic struggle between the House of York and the House of Lancaster for control of the English crown. The House of York, whose emblem was the white rose, had deep roots in the city, and the conflict saw York both as a power base and a battleground. While the Yorkists initially found success under Edward IV, the tide of war shifted dramatically. The city witnessed numerous royal visits, military campaigns, and eventually became a center of resistance during the brief and tragic reign of Richard III, the last Yorkist king, who fell at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. York's role in these conflicts left a profound cultural and political legacy, echoed in place names, local traditions, and civic symbols that still honor the white rose today. Today, York is a city where the past breathes alongside the present. Its historic significance has made it one of Britain's top heritage tourism destinations. Visitors flock to the city walls, which stretch over 2 miles and offer panoramic views of the city. The Clifford's Tower, a Norman keep on a motte that once served as a royal stronghold and prison, and of course York Minster, still a functioning place of worship and music. The Jorvik Viking Center, opened in 1984, transformed public archaeology by bringing Viking York to life with reconstructed streets, soundscapes, and even period-accurate smells. It attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors annually and serves as a model for interactive museum experiences worldwide. York's commitment to preserving and celebrating its layered history, Roman, Viking, Norman, medieval, and beyond, makes it a true powerhouse of the past. Chapter 4: Durham, a fortress of faith and power. Durham's rise as a religious and political center begins with the story of St. Cuthbert, a revered Northumbrian saint and former bishop of Lindisfarne. After Viking raids devastated coastal monasteries, Cuthbert's body was carried inland by his followers in search of a safe resting place. Around 995 AD, they settled on a strategic promontory encircled by the River Wear Durham. A temporary church was constructed to house the saint's relics, but its spiritual and political significance rapidly attracted monastic investment. The shrine of St. Cuthbert became a major pilgrimage site, comparable in importance to Canterbury. In this sanctuary, Durham laid the foundations for what would become its most iconic structure. The arrival of the Normans heralded a new era. In 1093, the construction of Durham Cathedral began under Bishop William of St. Calais. It was intended not only as a religious monument, but also as a symbol of Norman dominance in the volatile north. The cathedral was built in the Romanesque style, with immense pillars, ribbed vaults, and the earliest known use of pointed arches, a precursor to Gothic architecture. The cathedral's location is dramatic, perched high on a rocky peninsula above the River Wear. It was deliberately chosen for defense and symbolism, projecting both divine authority and earthly power. The shrine of St. Cuthbert remained central to the cathedral's identity, drawing pilgrims and legitimizing Norman rule. Adjacent to the cathedral stands Durham Castle, originally constructed by the Normans as a military fortification. Over time, it became the residence of the Prince Bishops of Durham. Together, the castle and cathedral form a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for their historical, architectural, and spiritual significance. Durham played a critical role in the Norman consolidation of England. The north had been a hotspot of resistance, and the Normans responded by establishing a unique form of governance in Durham, one that blended military and ecclesiastical authority. The prince-bishops of Durham were granted extraordinary powers. They could raise armies, mint coins, levy taxes, and administer justice, all in the name of the crown but largely independent of it. This quasi-feudal arrangement turned Durham into a virtually autonomous palatinate, a buffer zone against Scottish incursions and local unrest. Norman Durham was thus not merely a religious site, but a political fortress, with its bishop acting as both spiritual shepherd and feudal lord. The prince-bishops were some of the most powerful figures in medieval England. Their authority extended beyond the church and into every aspect of northern life. The seat of the prince-bishopric of Durham was one of the richest and most influential in the realm. Notable figures include Bishop Anthony Beck, who wielded both sword and crozier in the 13th century, and Bishop Richard Trevor, who contributed to architectural and educational reform in the 18th century. Their palatial lifestyle and political clout made Durham a center of both opulence and governance. The bishop's court governed large swathes of land, enforced laws, and even issued edicts. This extraordinary ecclesiastical autonomy lasted until the 19th century, when the powers of the prince-bishops were finally curtailed by parliamentary reform. Durham's legacy of learning began in earnest in the 19th century with the establishment of Durham University in 1832, one of the oldest in England after Oxford and Cambridge. Founded with strong ties to the Church of England, the university initially focused on theology, classics, and philosophy, aimed at educating clergymen and scholars. Durham University quickly expanded to encompass the sciences, law, and humanities, and has grown into a world-class institution. It maintains strong connections to its architectural roots. Durham Castle now serves as a college residence, while the cathedral hosts academic ceremonies. Education, like faith and power, became one of the city's enduring legacies. The blend of monastic tradition and modern academic pursuit gives Durham a unique atmosphere, scholarly, spiritual, and deeply rooted in history. Durham remains a compact yet potent city, its skyline dominated by the cathedral and castle, its cobbled streets echoing centuries of spiritual pilgrimage, academic excellence, and political maneuvering. Heritage preservation is taken seriously here, with museums, guided tours, and archives helping visitors and residents alike connect with its storied past. The Durham Light Infantry Museum, Open Treasure Exhibition, and seasonal events like Durham Miners' Gala further enrich the cultural landscape. Pilgrims still visit St. Cuthbert's Shrine, while students from around the world arrive to study under the cathedral's watchful shadow. As both a spiritual sanctuary and a center of learning, Durham stands as a testament to the enduring power of faith, scholarship, and architecture. Lincoln, from Romans to Industrial Revolution. Lincoln's story begins with the Romans, who saw in the location a strategic and elevated spot near the River Witham. Originally a Celtic settlement, the Romans transformed it into Lindum Colonia, a fortified garrison that later became a full-fledged Roman colony. Established around the 1st century AD, Lindum served as a retirement settlement for Roman soldiers and a key junction in Britain's growing network of Roman roads. The Romans constructed a grid-like town structure, complete with public baths, forums, and a basilica. Today, remnants of Roman Lincoln survive. The Newport Arch, one of the oldest functioning Roman gates in Britain, still stands proudly. Lindum became a symbol of Rome's architectural legacy and urban planning. As Rome declined, Lindum slowly faded into obscurity, its proud walls gradually buried under layers of time. But Lincoln was far from done. By the medieval period, Lincoln's fortunes rose again. Following the Norman conquest in 1066, William the Conqueror ordered the construction of a castle on the city's old Roman fort. Built in 1068, Lincoln Castle became a defensive stronghold and a seat of justice. Not far from it, in 1072, began the creation of Lincoln Cathedral, an architectural masterpiece that would come to symbolize not just spiritual devotion but human ambition. When its central spire was completed in the 14th century, Lincoln Cathedral was believed to be the tallest building in the world, surpassing even the Great Pyramid of Giza. The cathedral's Gothic architecture, with its pointed arches, flying buttresses, and rose windows, speaks of an age deeply committed to faith, beauty, and engineering. The Angel Choir, built to house the shrine of St. Hugh of Lincoln, is especially renowned for its intricate design and ethereal acoustics. Lincoln Castle holds one of the 4 surviving original copies of the Magna Carta, sealed in 1215 by King John. This great charter was a watershed moment in English history, laying the groundwork for constitutional government and the protection of individual rights. The presence of this document in Lincoln reflects the city's importance in national politics and its association with barons who demanded justice from the monarchy. Today, the Magna Carta is housed in a state-of-the-art vault within the castle grounds, drawing scholars, tourists, and freedom lovers from across the globe. Its presence is a testament to Lincoln's historical role in the birth of civil liberties. Lincoln prospered economically in the Middle Ages, primarily through the wool trade. Situated between the fertile lands of Lincolnshire and key trading routes, the city became a bustling hub for the export of high-quality English wool, a commodity as precious as gold in medieval Europe. Guilds flourished, and merchants grew wealthy, funding the expansion of civic structures, churches, and schools. Lincoln's Guildhall, markets, and medieval shops reflected this newfound prosperity. By the 13th century, Lincoln was one of the largest and wealthiest cities in England. It had its own Jewish quarter, a mint, and played host to royal visits and political assemblies. The Brayford Pool, a natural lake formed from a widening of the River Witham, played a critical role in Lincoln's development. During the Roman and medieval periods, it served as a vital inland port. Goods could arrive from the coast and be distributed into the Midlands via river or road. By the 18th and 19th centuries, the Brayford Pool and its connecting canals became even more important as Britain entered the Industrial Revolution. Lincoln shifted gears, from a cathedral city to a manufacturing center. The city began to produce agricultural machinery and later evolved into a hub for engineering and aviation. Companies like Ruston and Hornsby and later Ruston Gas Turbines, part of Siemens today, transformed the city into a center of mechanical innovation. Lincoln played its part in both world wars, providing engines for tanks, aircraft, and ships. Today, Lincoln is a city of layered identities: Roman colony, Norman stronghold, medieval market town, and industrial innovator. Its historic streets climb the hill from the Brayford Pool to the cathedral, offering a journey through centuries of British history. The annual Steampunk Festival, Lincoln's thriving university, and the preservation of heritage sites like the Cathedral and Castle show that Lincoln continues to balance past and present in dynamic harmony. Canterbury, the heart of English Christianity. Canterbury's journey into spiritual greatness began in 597 AD, when St. Augustine arrived from Rome on a mission from Pope Gregory the Great. Sent to convert the Anglo-Saxons, Augustine chose Canterbury as his base. The then King of Kent, Ethelbert, granted him land and patronage, allowing Augustine to establish what would become Canterbury Cathedral, the spiritual heart of the English Church. This moment marked the foundation of the Church of England and set Canterbury on a sacred trajectory. Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury, and every subsequent archbishop, including modern figures like Thomas Cranmer and Justin Welby, traces their spiritual lineage back to him. Underscore 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 underscore. Thomas Becket and the Pilgrimage Phenomenon. The most dramatic and transformative moment in Canterbury's medieval history came in 1170, with the murder of Archbishop Thomas Becket in the cathedral. Once a close friend of King Henry II, Becket had become a fierce defender of ecclesiastical independence, refusing to let the king exert authority over the church. Their conflict ended violently when 4 knights, believing they were acting on the king's wishes, murdered Becket at the altar of the cathedral. His death shocked the Christian world and instantly turned Canterbury into a pilgrimage site. Within 3 years, Becket was canonized as a saint, and his shrine in the cathedral became one of the most visited religious destinations in Europe. The tale of Becket's martyrdom was immortalized in Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, where pilgrims journey to the saint's tomb while sharing stories that captured the essence of medieval life. Medieval Canterbury grew around its cathedral, becoming not only a religious center, but also a political and economic hub. The city walls, gates, and churches spoke to its spiritual wealth, while the structured street layout reflected Norman and later medieval planning principles. The church owned much of the surrounding land and influenced local governance, trade regulations, and education. Ecclesiastical courts often rivaled royal courts in power, and the archbishop's word carried immense authority, even beyond the city limits. Pilgrims brought income, artisans sold relics and souvenirs, and inns and taverns multiplied. Canterbury, like Lincoln, was a node in the vast network of medieval England, a place where faith, money, and power intermingled. Today, Canterbury Cathedral, along with St. Martin's Church, the oldest church in continuous use in England, and St. Augustine's Abbey, forms a UNESCO World Heritage Site. These landmarks preserve over 1,400 years of Christian tradition and architectural achievement. The cathedral, with its stunning perpendicular Gothic design, magnificent stained-glass windows, and richly decorated choir and crypt, remains a beacon of religious life and tourism. Despite undergoing reforms, dissolution, war damage, and restorations, Canterbury has kept its spiritual magnetism intact. Visitors can walk the same nave where monarchs once knelt, and where Becket's blood once spilled. The cathedral's choral services, liturgical traditions, and interfaith outreach continue to make it a living center of Christianity. Canterbury today masterfully blends the ancient with the modern. The city hosts a major university, art galleries, theaters, and a vibrant cafe culture. Yet it retains its cobbled streets, timber-framed houses, and ancient walls. Every year, thousands still undertake a pilgrimage to Canterbury, some in the traditional sense, others seeking heritage and reflection. The Canterbury Festival, blending music, drama, and art, attracts global talent and audiences. The spiritual remains intertwined with the secular. The Anglican Communion, with over 85 million followers worldwide, recognizes the Archbishop of Canterbury as its symbolic head. From Nigeria to New Zealand, from Canada to the Caribbean, the city's spiritual influence still echoes. Lincoln and Canterbury, one rooted in imperial power turned industrial resilience, the other in spiritual awakening and ecclesiastical dominance, showcase the diverse narratives of England's historical evolution. Where Lincoln tells a tale of transformation from Rome to revolution, Canterbury narrates a story of divine mission, martyrdom, and unwavering faith. Both cities stand not just as museums of stone and memory, but as vibrant organisms, still living, breathing, and shaping the future. Oxford, the birthplace of British academia. Oxford's origins date back to the early Saxon period when it began as a simple ford used by oxen to cross the River Thames, hence the name Oxenford. It was a strategic location due to its access across waterways and its central position between London and the Midlands. By the 8th century, Oxford had developed into a burgh, or fortified settlement, under the rule of Mercian kings, intended to resist Danish invasions. In the 10th and 11th centuries, it became a significant religious and commercial center, home to various churches and monasteries. Its location on trade routes and its defensible geography helped it grow rapidly during the later Anglo-Saxon period, playing a key role in regional governance and warfare. The Domesday Book of 1086 records Oxford as a town of considerable size, laying the groundwork for its later cultural significance. The emergence of Oxford University in the late 11th and early 12th centuries marked a pivotal shift in the town's history. As the oldest university in the English-speaking world, Oxford's origins are tied to the migration of scholars from Paris and other cathedral schools across Europe. The earliest records of teaching in Oxford date to 1096. The university gained momentum when Henry II forbade English students from attending the University of Paris in 1167, prompting scholars to settle in Oxford. In 1209, a conflict between townspeople and scholars led some academics to flee and eventually settle in Cambridge. But Oxford continued to flourish and was formally recognized by the Pope in 1231. It developed a system of colleges, autonomous institutions under the larger university umbrella. Early colleges like University College, 1249, Balliol, 1263, and Merton, 1264, provided lodging, meals, and academic guidance, formalizing the education structure that became a model for universities worldwide. Oxford's unique collegiate system is its hallmark. Each college developed its own traditions, identity, and architecture. These colleges were not only academic centers but also spiritual communities, with their own chapels, cloisters, and dining halls. The Bodleian Library, founded in 1602 by Thomas Bodley, is one of the oldest libraries in Europe and the second largest in Britain after the British Library. It remains a central scholarly resource, housing millions of books and manuscripts. Another iconic feature is the Radcliffe Camera, built in the 18th century as a science library and now part of the Bodleian Complex. With its round neoclassical design, it stands as one of Oxford's most photographed landmarks. These institutions reflect Oxford's enduring commitment to knowledge, architecture, and heritage. Oxford played a strategic and symbolic role during the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651. When war broke out between the Royalists, supporting King Charles I, and the Parliamentarians, Oxford became the Royalist capital. King Charles moved his court to the city in 1642, establishing his headquarters at Christ Church and commandeering many of the colleges for his army and government. The city endured military pressure and political intrigue for several years until it surrendered in 1646. While the war disrupted academic life, Oxford's role as a loyalist stronghold deepened its national significance. Post-war, many colleges and scholars faced scrutiny or punishment based on their allegiances. Oxford's influence has transcended academia, nurturing some of the greatest minds in English history. Alumni include John Donne, John Locke, J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Oscar Wilde, T.S. Eliot, Stephen Hawking, and countless others who reshaped literature, science, and philosophy. Institutions like the Oxford Union have been platforms for debate and leadership. The city's intellectual climate fostered pioneering ideas during the Enlightenment and continued into the modern era with contributions in science, politics, and theology. Tolkien and Lewis, part of the literary group known as the Inklings, met regularly in Oxford pubs like the Eagle and Child to discuss their works, including The Lord of the Rings and The Chronicles of Narnia. Oxford's literary culture remains vibrant, influencing generations through its curriculum, libraries, and literary societies. Cambridge, Scholars and Revolutionaries. Cambridge's settlement history begins with Iron Age and Roman roots, particularly around Castle Hill. The Romans established a fort called Duro Lepant in the 1st century AD, which became a key location along trade and military routes. Although it diminished in the post-Roman period, Saxon settlers reoccupied the area and established a town called Grantebridge. By the 9th and 10th centuries, Cambridge had become a regional market town, thriving due to its position on the River Cam. Its commercial strength laid the foundation for its later intellectual ascendancy. Cambridge University was established in 1209 by scholars who fled Oxford following disputes with townspeople. Initially, they lived in monastic settings or private houses. In 1231, King Henry III granted Cambridge a charter, and in 1318 Pope John XXI formally recognized the university. Like Oxford, Cambridge grew into a collegiate university. Early colleges included Peterhouse, 1284, Clare, 1326, and King's College, 1441, founded by King Henry VI. Over centuries, the university expanded, offering education in theology, the arts, and later in the sciences. The structure of Cambridge also mirrors Oxford in terms of college autonomy and town-gown relations, which at times led to conflict and regulation. These interactions shaped both the town's evolution and the university's independent culture. The rivalry between Oxford and Cambridge, colloquially called Oxbridge, has existed for centuries. It spans academics, rowing, especially the annual boat race on the Thames, and philosophical competition. Oxford has traditionally been associated with humanities, politics, and theology, while Cambridge excelled in mathematics and the sciences. This division isn't absolute, but each university cultivated a distinct identity. Both schools developed unique traditions, such as the Tripos examinations in Cambridge and the tutorial system in Oxford. Despite the rivalry, the universities often mirror each other in academic governance and prestige. Their competition has spurred advancements in education and innovation, reinforcing their position as the twin pillars of British higher learning. Cambridge has been a cradle of scientific revolutionaries. Perhaps the most iconic is Sir Isaac Newton, who entered Trinity College in 1661. His discoveries in calculus, gravity, and optics transformed modern science. His tenure at Cambridge was marked by intense study and later, teaching positions that influenced generations. In the 19th century, Charles Darwin studied at Christ's College. Though originally pursuing a degree in theology, his interest in natural sciences led to his voyage on the HMS Beagle and the theory of evolution. Darwin's time in Cambridge laid the intellectual groundwork for On the Origin of Species. In the 20th and 21st centuries, Stephen Hawking, theoretical physicist and cosmologist, continued this legacy. Based at Cambridge's Gonville and Caius College, he advanced the study of black holes and cosmology while battling ALS. His book A Brief History of Time brought complex science to the general public and cemented his role as one of Cambridge's greatest minds. Cambridge's architectural landscape reflects its rich academic tradition. The Gothic grandeur of King's College Chapel, with its fan vault ceiling and stained-glass windows, is among the most famous buildings in Britain. Other colleges like St. John's, Trinity, and Magdalene feature medieval courtyards, Tudor facades, and modern extensions, making the town a mosaic of historical styles. The town-university relationship has historically been tense and symbiotic. In medieval times, town-gown riots were common. Today, the university dominates the town's economy, culture, and infrastructure. The blend of town and university life is managed with care, as Cambridge balances tourism, education, and community needs. The River Cam offers not only a scenic attraction but a central role in student life. Punting tours, regattas, and social gatherings highlight the town's intimate relationship with its waterways. Winchester, ancient capital of England. The origins of Winchester trace back to the Iron Age, but its prominence began under the Romans, who established a significant settlement known as Venta Belgarum. Located in the south of present-day England, Venta Belgarum was founded around 70 AD as the Civitas, capital town, of the local Belgic tribe, the Belgi. The Romans built a typical grid-like town with stone houses, public baths, temples, and forums. A protective wall surrounded the town, parts of which still survive today, bearing silent testimony to its Roman past. This Roman settlement became one of the major urban centers in Roman Britain, ranking alongside Londinium, London, Verulamium, St. Albans, and Eboracum, York. The Roman roads that converged here, and the River Itchen made Venta Belgarum a thriving trade and military hub. Even after the Roman withdrawal in the early 5th century, the settlement did not disappear, setting the stage for Winchester's medieval importance. After the fall of Roman Britain and the turbulent invasions by Anglo-Saxons, Jutes, and others, Winchester re-emerged as a major city under the Kingdom of Wessex, one of the most powerful early English kingdoms. It reached new heights under King Alfred the Great in the 9th century. Alfred, who reigned from 871 to 899, chose Winchester as his capital. It became the intellectual, military, and spiritual heart of Anglo-Saxon England. Alfred reorganized the city's defenses, introduced a legal code, and encouraged learning and literacy, promoting the translation of key Latin texts into Old English. Winchester was also home to a royal mint, which produced coins bearing the names of kings. As the capital of Wessex, Winchester effectively served as the capital of England during the unification process that led to a single English kingdom. Alfred's successors, such as Edward the Elder and Athelstan, continued to rule from Winchester, turning it into a royal and administrative center of immense importance. Winchester's ecclesiastical power is embodied in its majestic cathedral, one of the most historically significant and architecturally stunning churches in Europe. Construction of the current Winchester Cathedral began in 1079, replacing an earlier Saxon minster. Stretching over 560 feet, it is the longest Gothic cathedral in Europe. Over centuries, the cathedral became a place of royal burial, coronation, and pilgrimage. It was the spiritual heart of southern England and played a vital role in reinforcing the divine right of kings. Its architecture evolved with the times, blending Norman, Romanesque, and Gothic styles, and its choir and nave are masterworks of medieval craftsmanship. Perhaps its greatest treasure is the Winchester Bible, a lavishly illuminated manuscript produced in the mid-12th century. Commissioned by Bishop Henry of Blois, brother of King Stephen, the Bible was created by a team of scribes and artists using high-quality parchment, lapis lazuli, gold leaf, and other rare materials. It remains one of the most important examples of English Romanesque art and is preserved at the Cathedral Library. Following the Norman conquest in 1066, Winchester retained its status as a key royal city. William the Conqueror had himself crowned in both London and Winchester to signify control over both symbolic centers of England. The Norman kings continued to use Winchester for state matters, coronations, and burials. It was here that royal treasures were kept, and where the exchequer operated in the early medieval period. However, as London's political and economic importance grew, Winchester's status gradually declined. Nonetheless, it remained a center of legal authority and church governance. The city thrived during the medieval period as a market town and religious hub. Guilds, fairs, and trade networks flourished within the protection of the city's walls. Despite suffering from fires, plagues, and occasional decline, Winchester preserved its medieval character and architecture. Its Great Hall, part of the old Winchester Castle, still holds the legendary Round Table, a symbol associated with King Arthur, even though the table itself dates from the 13th century. In the modern era, Winchester achieved literary prominence due to its association with Jane Austen, one of England's greatest novelists. Austen spent the last weeks of her life in Winchester, where she had moved to seek medical treatment in 1817. She died there on July 18, 1817, at the age of 41 and was buried in Winchester Cathedral. Although her grave was initially modest, a later memorial recognized her literary legacy. Today, visitors from around the world visit her tomb in the cathedral, where the quiet grandeur of the space contrasts with the emotional depth and irony of her novels. Winchester, with its serene streets and ancient walls, seems a fitting resting place for Austen, who wrote so insightfully about the English countryside and its genteel inhabitants. The city's literary and historical layers, Roman, Saxon, Norman, and modern, make it a unique and deeply resonant symbol of English identity. Stirling, the key to Scotland. Stirling's geographic and strategic importance lies in its location at the gateway between the Highlands and Lowlands of Scotland. Whoever controlled Stirling controlled the central passageway across Scotland. This strategic importance is most visibly symbolized in Stirling Castle, perched dramatically atop Castle Hill. One of Scotland's grandest and most historically significant castles, Stirling Castle was both a fortress and a royal residence. It witnessed multiple coronations, sieges, and royal ceremonies. Much of the castle we see today dates from the 15th and 16th centuries, especially the period of the Stuart monarchs. The Great Hall, Royal Palace, and Chapel Royal showcase Renaissance architecture and reflect the court's cultural ambitions. Nearby, the Wallace Monument, erected in the 19th century, commemorates William Wallace, the Scottish hero who fought against English domination. Rising over 200 feet high, it stands as a romantic and nationalistic tribute to freedom and resistance, visible for miles around. Stirling was central to the Scottish Wars of Independence, 1296 to 1357, a pivotal period in Scottish history when the country fought to maintain its independence from England. Its location made it a crucial military and political prize. Control of Stirling Bridge, a narrow crossing point over the River Forth, was essential for moving troops between northern and southern Scotland. Both Scottish and English armies fought desperately to control this gateway, and battles fought here shaped the nation's destiny. The Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297 was one of the earliest and most stunning Scottish victories. Led by William Wallace and Andrew Moray, a much smaller Scottish force defeated a large English army commanded by the Earl of Surrey and Hugh de Cressingham. The English attempted to cross the narrow bridge in staggered formation, and Wallace's forces attacked once only part of the army had crossed, isolating and destroying the English vanguard. The victory established Wallace as guardian of Scotland and boosted Scottish morale immensely. Just 17 years later, in 1314, another decisive battle took place near Stirling, the Battle of Bannockburn. Scottish forces under Robert the Bruce faced the army of Edward II of England. The battle was fought over 2 days and resulted in a crushing Scottish victory, securing Robert the Bruce's position as King of Scots and affirming Scottish independence for another generation. These two battles, Stirling Bridge and Bannockburn, turned Stirling into a symbol of Scottish resistance and triumph against foreign domination. Stirling was also pivotal during the Tudor-Stuart era, particularly in the life of Mary, Queen of Scots. Born in 1542, Mary was crowned queen at Stirling Castle in 1543 as an infant, following the death of her father, King James V. The castle played a key role in her early upbringing and later in the turbulent politics of her reign. Mary's coronation at Stirling reinforced the castle's status as the ceremonial heart of the Scottish monarchy. Many of her successors, including James VI, who would become James I of England, spent part of their childhood at Stirling Castle under careful guard and education. Stirling's royal connections and ceremonial importance persisted through the Renaissance period, even as Scotland moved towards political union with England. After the union of the Scottish and English crowns in 1603 and the political unification in 1707, Stirling's political significance declined, but its historical importance remained intact. The town evolved gradually, adapting to changing economic and social trends. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Stirling developed into a commercial and administrative center. The arrival of the railways, improvements in education, and industrial growth brought modernization while preserving its medieval heritage. Streets were widened, markets expanded, and new civic buildings emerged. The Victorian era brought with it a revival of Scottish national identity, symbolized in part by the erection of the National Wallace Monument in 1869. Stirling thus became not only a place of historical interest, but also a rallying point for a renewed Scottish pride and nationalism. Today, Stirling stands as a modern city with a medieval soul. The preservation of the old town, the castle, and its role in Scottish education and culture make it a key destination for historians, tourists, and citizens alike. In 2002, Stirling officially received city status as part of Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee celebrations, marking its continued importance in Scottish life. Winchester and Stirling, though on opposite ends of Britain, share a unique historical resonance. Winchester, the ancient capital of England, represents the heart of early English unity, royal authority, and religious splendor. Stirling, the key to Scotland, embodies resistance, strategic command, and national pride. Both cities are guardians of their nation's pasts, encapsulating critical moments in British history, from Roman towns and Saxon kingdoms to revolutionary battles and royal coronations. Today, they continue to serve as windows into the deep and layered narratives that shaped the United Kingdom. Their stones tell stories of power, identity, struggle, and transformation, echoes of a past that still shapes the present. Edinburgh, the Athens of the North. Edinburgh's old town is a maze of narrow alleyways called closes and towering tenements. The Royal Mile, stretching from Edinburgh Castle to Holyrood Palace, is the spine of this historic district. This cobbled thoroughfare evolved from a medieval hub into a showcase of Scotland's architectural legacy. Historically, it served as the ceremonial and administrative heart of the city. It's lined with significant structures like St. Giles Cathedral, the Canongate Tollbooth, and medieval courtyards that evoke the city's tumultuous past of plague, fire, and rebellion. Edinburgh Castle, perched atop Castle Rock, a volcanic plug formed around 350 million years ago, has served as a fortress since at least the Iron Age. By the 12th century, it became a royal residence and military stronghold. It played pivotal roles in the wars of Scottish independence and later conflicts. The defensible position of Castle Rock made it a natural focal point for settlement, with its surrounding ridges gradually forming into the layout of the old town. Artifacts suggest continuous human occupation here for over 2,000 years. From the late 17th to 18th centuries, Edinburgh flourished intellectually, giving rise to the Scottish Enlightenment, a cultural and philosophical movement led by thinkers like David Hume, Adam Smith, and Dougald Stewart. Institutions like the University of Edinburgh became hubs for innovation in economics, medicine, science, and moral philosophy. This earned the city its nickname, the Athens of the North, a nod to both its classical-style new town and its intellectual might. The Enlightenment transformed Edinburgh into one of Europe's key cultural capitals. Holyrood Palace, located at the Royal Mile's eastern end, remains the monarch's official residence in Scotland. Originally founded as a 12th-century abbey, it became a royal palace in the 16th century under James IV. Its Baroque facade and medieval interiors reflect the merging of religious and royal authority. St. Giles Cathedral, with its distinctive crown steeple, has been the religious heart of Edinburgh since the 14th century. It played a pivotal role during the Reformation, particularly under John Knox, who preached here. The architecture mixes Romanesque and Gothic elements, with beautiful stained glass and the Thistle Chapel, home to Scotland's chivalric order. Today, Edinburgh is globally recognized for its cultural vibrancy. The Edinburgh International Festival and the Fringe Festival make the city a mecca for arts, attracting millions annually. These festivals, launched post-World War II, transformed the city into a stage for drama, comedy, and experimentation. In literature, Edinburgh has been home to iconic figures like Sir Walter Scott, Robert Louis Stevenson, Muriel Spark, and J.K. Rowling, who wrote parts of Harry Potter in city cafes. In 2004, UNESCO named Edinburgh the world's first city of literature. From Enlightenment salons to contemporary festivals, the city's legacy continues to blend heritage and innovation, honoring its past while nurturing its cultural future. Londonderry/Derry, a divided past. Derry, or Londonderry, was central to the plantation of Ulster, a 17th-century colonization effort by the English and Scottish Protestant settlers. The city's fortified walls, constructed between 1613 and 1619, remain among the best preserved in Europe. Built by the Honourable the Irish Society, the walls were meant to protect Protestant settlers and symbolize British power in Catholic-majority Ireland. The city was renamed Londonderry to reflect the role of London livery companies in its colonization. One of the most dramatic episodes in the city's history is the Siege of Derry during the Williamite War in Ireland. Protestant inhabitants, loyal to William of Orange, locked the gates against the approaching Catholic forces of James II. The 105-day siege caused severe famine and loss of life, but ended in victory for the defenders. This event became a cornerstone of Unionist identity and is commemorated annually by the Apprentice Boys of Derry. The 20th century saw Derry engulfed by the Troubles, a violent ethno-nationalist conflict centered on the constitutional status of Northern Ireland. The city, with its segregated neighborhoods, became a flashpoint. The Bogside, a predominantly Catholic district, witnessed the Battle of the Bogside in 1969 and the tragic Bloody Sunday Massacre in 1972, when British soldiers killed 14 unarmed civil rights protesters. These events deepened Catholic-Protestant animosity and globalized the conflict. In the aftermath of the Good Friday Agreement, 1998, Derry has made strides toward healing. The Peace Bridge, opened in 2011, symbolically and physically connects the historically divided Catholic and Protestant communities across the River Foyle. It has become a beacon of unity, used for cultural events and community gatherings. Organizations, schools, and art projects have worked tirelessly to bridge generational and religious divides. Today, Derry balances pride in its deep historical roots with a forward-looking ethos. While Unionists often use Londonderry and Nationalists Derry, both sides increasingly embrace the city's dual identity. Historical tours cover both the siege and civil rights struggles. The Museum of Free Derry, the Guildhall, and the city's intact walls present layered narratives of conflict and hope. As the city rebrands itself through tech industries, arts festivals, and education, it serves as a living example of resilience and reconciliation in post-conflict society. Shrewsbury, Tudor timber and the Welsh border. Nestled in a bend of the River Severn, Shrewsbury is one of England's finest and best-preserved medieval towns. As the historic county town of Shropshire, it sits close to the border with Wales and has played a central role in English history, military, architectural, and cultural. Its landscape of timber-framed Tudor buildings, Norman Castle, winding streets, and connection to Charles Darwin tells a story of quiet, but significant transformation from a medieval power center to a symbol of heritage and rural evolution. Shrewsbury's origins go back to Saxon times, but it truly gained prominence after the Norman conquest. Around 1074, Roger de Montgomery, one of William the Conqueror's most powerful lords, built Shrewsbury Castle to control the strategic Severn crossing and guard against Welsh incursions. The castle's sandstone keep and curtain walls still dominate the northern approach to the town, a reminder of its military importance. Adjacent to it stands Shrewsbury Abbey, founded in 1083 and made famous centuries later through Ellis Peters' Brother Cadfael novels. The town retains its medieval street pattern, shaped by the natural meander of the Severn. Streets like Butcher Row and Fish Street reflect their original trade-based functions. With over 660 listed buildings, many of which date to the 15th and 16th centuries, Shrewsbury's urban fabric is remarkably intact. Narrow passages called shuts run between buildings, a vestige of the town's medieval layout and dense construction. Shrewsbury is most famed for its Tudor half-timbered buildings, which showcase intricate black and white designs, overhanging upper stories, and richly carved facades. Buildings like Ireland's Mansion, 1596, and Abbott's House illustrate the town's mercantile wealth during the Elizabethan era. These structures, often built by wool merchants and wealthy tradesmen, signified a prosperous and confident town. The Old Market Hall, built in 1596 in the heart of town, stands as a quintessential Tudor civic building. It served as a focal point for trade and announcements. Remarkably well preserved, it reflects Shrewsbury's central role in the booming wool and cloth trade of the late medieval and Tudor periods. The proliferation of timbered houses is due in part to a great rebuilding during the 16th and early 17th centuries, when Shrewsbury's merchant class invested heavily in permanent, prestigious homes. Shrewsbury's most famous son is Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary theory. Born here in 1809, Darwin spent his early years exploring the riverbanks and meadows around town, nurturing the scientific curiosity that would later shape modern biology. He attended Shrewsbury School, then located in the town center, now a library, where he studied under Dr. Samuel Butler. Today, Darwin is celebrated through numerous plaques, exhibitions, and a statue outside the old school building. The Darwin Trail guides visitors to landmarks associated with his youth. Although he later moved to Cambridge and traveled the world, his Shropshire roots were formative, embedding in him a love of nature and close observation. Shrewsbury was long a frontier town, a bulwark against Welsh resistance. Throughout the 12th to 15th centuries, it was a vital military staging ground in English campaigns into Wales. Numerous border skirmishes and uprisings, such as those led by Owain Glyndwr, reinforced the town's strategic importance. The Battle of Shrewsbury in 1403, fought just north of the town, was a key event during the reign of Henry IV. It pitted the king's forces against the rebellious Henry Hotspur Percy and ended in a decisive royalist victory, strengthening Henry's claim to the throne. Shakespeare immortalized this battle in Henry IV, Part 1, adding literary significance to the region. As the English crown gradually pacified and absorbed Wales, Shrewsbury transitioned from a border garrison to a market and administrative center. This shift mirrors the town's evolution from conflict to commerce. In the modern era, Shrewsbury has not undergone the dramatic industrialization seen in nearby cities like Birmingham or Manchester. Its economy remained rooted in agriculture, education, and small-scale manufacture. This gentle evolution helped preserve its historic character. Today, the town is celebrated for its gardens, such as the Dingle and Quarry Park, and for hosting the Shrewsbury Flower Show, one of the longest-running events of its kind in the world. With its literary ties, conservation efforts, and architectural wealth, Shrewsbury offers a window into Tudor and medieval England with the quiet dignity of a town that has aged gracefully. Stratford-upon-Avon, Shakespeare's town. Set on the peaceful banks of the River Avon in Warwickshire, Stratford-upon-Avon is globally famous as the birthplace of William Shakespeare. Though a modest market town in the 16th century, it has become a pilgrimage site for lovers of literature, history, and English culture. Its charming streets, preserved buildings, and deep association with the Bard have made it one of the UK's most visited heritage destinations. William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon in 1564 to John Shakespeare, a glovemaker and alderman, and Mary Arden, from a prosperous farming family. His birthplace, now a museum on Henley Street, is a typical Tudor home with timber framing and a central hearth. It has become a symbol of humble genius, showing visitors how England's greatest playwright began life in a provincial town. Nearby are other Shakespeare-related homes, and Hathaway's cottage, the picturesque thatched home of his wife in Shottery, Hall's Croft, home to his daughter Susanna and her husband, Dr. John Hall, and New Place, where Shakespeare lived in his later years and where he died in 1616. These sites form the core of the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, which preserves the town's literary legacy and fosters global interest in Shakespearean scholarship. During Shakespeare's lifetime, Stratford was a bustling market town. Its location on the Avon made it a hub for wool and grain trading, and its regular fairs attracted merchants and performers. The town had a grammar school, King Edward VI School, where Shakespeare likely received his education in Latin, rhetoric, and classical literature. The architecture of Stratford has retained much of its Tudor character. Buildings like Harvard House, the Guild Chapel, and the timber-framed Town Hall paint a vivid picture of life during Elizabethan England. The blend of civic pride and modest prosperity that defined Stratford in the 16th century remains visible in its street layout, open market spaces, and religious institutions. Interest in Shakespeare as a cultural icon began rising in the 18th century. Figures like David Garrick, a celebrated actor and Shakespearean enthusiast, helped spur the first major Shakespeare Jubilee in 1769, which brought thousands to the town and planted the seed for modern literary tourism. Over time, Stratford transformed into a living museum. Public and private efforts ensured that the town preserved its Elizabethan character. The Shakespeare Birthplace Trust, established in 1847, began acquiring properties, maintaining archives, and curating exhibits for the millions of visitors who come each year. Today, tourism remains the town's main industry. Visitors from across the globe flock to see where Shakespeare lived, worked, and was buried, inside Holy Trinity Church on the banks of the Avon. At the heart of modern Stratford's cultural life is the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, RST. Founded in 1932 and rebuilt in 2010, the RST stands as a world-class venue for the performance of Shakespeare's plays and new works. Operated by the Royal Shakespeare Company, RSC, it continues the town's long theatrical tradition. The complex includes 3 theaters, the RST, the Swan Theatre, and the Other Place, and is a major employer and cultural force in the region. It has hosted the greatest Shakespearean actors of the age, from Laurence Olivier to Judi Dench, and continues to shape interpretations of the bard's works. The town thrives as a center for education and performance, with schools, summer festivals, and international partnerships that promote Shakespearean drama. Running through the heart of Stratford, the River Avon is both a literal and symbolic lifeline. It provides scenic beauty, leisure opportunities, and reflections of the historic buildings along its banks. Punting, boat rides, and riverside walks draw tourists and locals alike. The town itself exudes charm, with its well-maintained parks, floral displays, and historic inns. Places like the Dirty Duck pub, frequented by actors, and Bridge Street, lined with boutiques and timbered facades, contribute to the town's warm and vibrant ambience. Events like the Stratford Literary Festival, Shakespeare's birthday celebrations, and seasonal performances ensure that Stratford remains more than just a static museum piece. It is a dynamic and evolving community that honors its most famous son while embracing the present. Liverpool, the port that shaped an empire. Perched on the eastern banks of the River Mersey, Liverpool evolved from a modest fishing village into one of the most influential ports in the British Empire. Known globally for its maritime history, cultural contributions, and sporting legends, Liverpool's identity has been shaped by trade, industry, migration, and resilience. Few cities in Britain encapsulate the rise, fall, and rebirth of imperial urbanism as vividly as Liverpool. Liverpool's transformation began in the 18th century, when it emerged as a vital maritime hub. The port's natural position, linked to the Irish Sea and with access to the Atlantic, made it ideal for trade with Ireland, North America, the West Indies, and Africa. The construction of the first commercial enclosed dock in the world in 1715 was a turning point. Known as the Old Dock, it allowed ships to load and unload regardless of tides, a revolutionary step in port engineering. By the late 18th century, Liverpool was among Britain's busiest ports, second only to London in some decades. Its wealth came from importing raw materials, sugar, cotton, and tobacco, and exporting manufactured goods and textiles. This booming commerce was facilitated by a powerful merchant class, who built stately homes and grand civic buildings to reflect their success. Liverpool's rise as a mercantile powerhouse laid the foundation for Britain's imperial ambitions. However, Liverpool's wealth was inextricably tied to the transatlantic slave trade, one of the darkest chapters in British history. Between the early 1700s and the abolition of the trade in 1807, Liverpool merchants dominated the British slave trade. An estimated 1.5 million Africans were transported on Liverpool ships, often in brutal conditions, to be sold into slavery in the Americas and Caribbean. These slave ships formed one leg of the triangular trade. British goods were sent to Africa, enslaved people to the New World, and sugar or cotton back to Britain. Liverpool's dockside warehouses were stacked with goods produced by enslaved labor. The abolition of the trade in 1807, followed by the emancipation of slaves in British colonies in 1833, triggered a moral reckoning in the city. Though economic repercussions were mitigated by industrial diversification, Liverpool has spent the last century grappling with this legacy. In recent years, initiatives such as the International Slavery Museum, opened in 2007, have provided education and memorialization. Street names, monuments, and academic work have also been used to critically engage with the city's role in slavery. Following the end of the slave trade, Liverpool reinvented itself during the Industrial Revolution. With the growth of the cotton and textile industries in nearby Manchester, Liverpool became the crucial gateway port for raw cotton. The Liverpool and Manchester Railway, opened in 1830, was the first fully operational railway line linking two cities and further fueled this economic symbiosis. The expansion of dock infrastructure was remarkable. Engineers like Jesse Hartley constructed architectural marvels such as the Albert Dock, opened in 1846, which used iron, brick, and stone rather than wood, making it fireproof and suitable for valuable cargo like tobacco and cotton. Today, the Albert Dock has been restored and is home to museums, galleries, and restaurants, But in its heyday, it was a bustling node of global trade. Liverpool also saw the growth of shipping companies such as Cunard and White Star Line, the latter being the company that operated the ill-fated Titanic. The city's maritime workforce swelled, drawing people from Ireland, Wales, China, and West Africa, making Liverpool one of the most multicultural cities in Britain. Beyond its economic impact, Liverpool has shaped global popular culture. Most famously, it was the birthplace of the Beatles, the most influential rock band of the 20th century. Formed in the early 1960s, the Beatles, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, rose from local clubs like the Cavern Club to worldwide fame. Their legacy remains a major cultural and tourist draw. Sites such as Penny Lane, Strawberry Field, and the Beatles Story Museum keep the band's legend alive. In addition to music, football, soccer is central to the city's identity. Liverpool FC and Everton FC, the two major clubs, have enormous fan bases both locally and internationally. Anfield and Goodison Park, their respective stadiums, are symbols of working-class passion, loyalty, and civic pride. The fierce rivalry between the clubs reflects not just sporting competition, but also deeper social and historical divisions within the city. Liverpool's cultural reach also includes literature, theatre, and visual arts. The Liverpool Biennial, one of the largest festivals of contemporary art in the UK, and institutions like the Walker Art Gallery and Tate Liverpool reinforce its reputation as a city of creativity. In the late 20th century, Liverpool experienced a period of decline, marked by economic stagnation, industrial closures, and social unrest, culminating in the Toxteth riots of 1981. The closure of docks and related industries led to rising unemployment, population decline, and urban blight. However, the city began a slow but determined process of regeneration, led by both public and private investment. The European Capital of Culture 2008 designation marked a turning point, bringing with it significant infrastructure investment and a boost in tourism. The revitalization of the waterfront, expansion of universities, and a growing creative sector helped reshape Liverpool's post-industrial image. Controversially, in 2021, Liverpool lost its UNESCO World Heritage status due to concerns that new developments, such as high-rise buildings and waterfront projects, had compromised the city's historic character. While local authorities argued that redevelopment was vital for economic renewal, heritage organizations lamented the loss of international recognition. This tension between progress and preservation continues to define Liverpool's modern identity. St Andrews, Scotland's spiritual and academic cradle. Situated on the east coast of Fife in Scotland, overlooking the cold expanse of the North Sea, St Andrews is a place where history, spirituality, learning, and sport converge. Though modest in size, it has wielded enormous cultural and symbolic power throughout Scottish history. As a cradle of early Christianity, the home of one of Britain's oldest universities, and the revered birthplace of modern golf, St Andrews embodies a unique synthesis of sacred, scholarly, and sporting traditions. St Andrews' story begins in the early medieval period, when it emerged as a spiritual center of enormous influence. Legend claims that the relics of St Andrew, one of Jesus Christ's apostles and the patron saint of Scotland, were brought here in the 8th century by a monk named Regulus or Rule. This transformed the site into a major center of Christian pilgrimage, second only to Canterbury in Britain. The town became the ecclesiastical capital of Scotland, with successive bishops and archbishops wielding both spiritual and political authority. Pilgrims flocked to the town to venerate the relics, and its sacred status gave rise to significant religious institutions. The most striking reminder of St Andrew's religious past is the ruined cathedral, once the largest and most magnificent church in Scotland. Construction began in 1158 and continued for over a century. Upon its completion, the St Andrew's Cathedral became the seat of the Scottish Church and a symbol of both religious and national power. However, the cathedral's glory was not to last. During the Scottish Reformation in the mid-16th century, Protestant reformers denounced the opulence of the Catholic Church. In 1559, followers of John Knox ransacked the cathedral, leading to its abandonment. The stone was later quarried for other buildings, and the once grand structure fell into ruin. Today, the remnants, towering walls, a graveyard, and broken cloisters, are managed by Historic Environment Scotland and serve as a poignant monument to the town's sacred history. The adjacent St Rule's Tower, dating to the 12th century, offers panoramic views and insight into earlier phases of the site. Parallel to its spiritual significance, St. Andrews also evolved into a major center of learning. The University of St. Andrews, founded in 1413, is the oldest university in Scotland and the third oldest in the English-speaking world, after Oxford and Cambridge. Originally established to educate clergy and theologians, the university quickly expanded its curriculum. Over centuries, it has become a beacon of academic excellence, attracting students from across the globe. Its collegiate system, ancient traditions, and picturesque surroundings create a unique educational atmosphere. Notable alumni include theologians, scientists, philosophers, and political leaders. In recent memory, the university gained international attention as the place where Prince William met Catherine Middleton, now the Prince and Princess of Wales. Their relationship brought global attention to the institution, blending tradition with modern celebrity culture. The university's historic buildings, St. Salvator's Quad, St. Leonard's College, and the University Library, are architectural gems that frame the intellectual life of the town. St. Andrews holds a special place in the world of sport as the home of golf. The Old Course, which dates back to the 15th century, is regarded as the birthplace of modern golf. It helped codify the rules of the game and remains one of the most iconic courses on the professional circuit. Governed by the Royal and Ancient Golf Club, founded in 1754, St. Andrews became the spiritual headquarters of golf. The club was instrumental in standardizing the game and overseeing the British Open Championship, which is frequently held here. The Swilcan Bridge, Hell Bunker, and Road Hole are legendary features of the Old Course. Walking the links is not only a sporting experience, but also a cultural pilgrimage for golf enthusiasts. Visitors can also enjoy the British Golf Museum, which tells the story of the sport from its medieval origins to its global reach. The integration of golf into the town's identity has shaped tourism, architecture, and even student life, as the university offers degrees in golf management and related fields. What sets St. Andrews apart is its unique blend of roles. It is at once a place of religious reverence, intellectual rigor, and athletic tradition. Few other towns have served as the spiritual capital of a nation, educational beacon, and global sporting destination all in one. This confluence is felt in the rhythm of life in St. Andrews. Medieval ruins stand beside lecture halls. Students in academic robes walk past tourists in golf attire. Prayers once said in Latin gave way to debates in philosophy and international politics. The town's scale fosters intimacy, yet its legacy commands global respect. Whitby, Gothic legends and seafaring history. Whitby, a small coastal town on the northeast coast of England, is famous not only for its stunning views and maritime heritage, but also for its deep connection to Gothic legends and its seafaring history. Perched on the cliffs of the North Sea, Whitby offers an atmospheric mix of natural beauty, historical significance, and cultural intrigue, making it a vital part of England's historic towns. The heart of Whitby's historical legacy is undoubtedly Whitby Abbey, which sits majestically above the town, overlooking the sea. Originally built as a Christian monastery in the 7th century, the abbey was founded by the Anglo-Saxon King Oswiu of Northumbria. In 664 AD, the Synod of Whitby took place here, a pivotal event in the history of the Church of England. The Synod was convened to decide whether the Church should follow Roman or Celtic practices, including the method for calculating the date of Easter. The decisions made at this synod had lasting implications on the structure of Christianity in Britain, as it resulted in the standardization of practices under Roman influence, shaping the future of English Christianity. Though the abbey is now a ruin, it stands as a symbol of the town's religious and cultural significance. In addition to its religious history, Whitby is synonymous with Gothic literature due to its connection to Bram Stoker's famous novel Dracula. Stoker visited the town in 1890, and its atmospheric coastline, dramatic cliffs, and imposing abbey left a lasting impression on him. In Dracula, Whitby is depicted as the setting where Count Dracula arrives in England, and the town's famous 199 steps leading up to the abbey are immortalized as part of the vampire's journey. Whitby has since embraced its association with Dracula and has become a pilgrimage site for fans of the novel and Gothic culture. The town hosts the annual Whitby Goth Weekend, attracting thousands of visitors interested in the darker aspects of the town's heritage. Another critical chapter in Whitby's history is its maritime legacy, particularly the town's association with Captain James Cook, one of the greatest explorers in British history. Cook's journey to the Pacific Ocean was a landmark achievement, and Whitby was the port from which he set sail on his famous voyages. The town is home to the Captain Cook Memorial Museum, where visitors can explore artifacts and displays about Cook's life and voyages. Whitby's involvement in maritime exploration goes beyond Cook. The town has a long history of shipbuilding, with Whitby-built ships playing a significant role in the development of British naval power. Whitby was a major center for shipbuilding and whaling during the 18th and 19th centuries. The town's shipyards produced a variety of vessels, from merchant ships to naval frigates, contributing significantly to Britain's maritime strength. Whitby's whaling industry was particularly notable, as the town was one of the key players in the global whaling trade. Whitby-built ships sailed to the Arctic and Antarctic, hunting for whale oil, an essential resource for lighting lamps and lubricating machinery in the industrial era. However, the decline of the whaling industry in the 19th century, coupled with the rise of steam-powered vessels, led to a gradual shift in the town's economic focus. Nevertheless, the legacy of Whitby's seafaring past is still evident in the town's maritime museums, historic ships, and the town's overall character. Whitby's link to Gothic culture has made it a unique and intriguing destination. The town is renowned for its atmospheric streets, old buildings, and dramatic views, all of which contribute to its Gothic charm. In addition to Dracula, Whitby has been featured in various films, books, and artistic works that draw inspiration from the eerie beauty of the town. Tourism is now a key industry in Whitby, with visitors flocking to the town to experience its rich history, including its Gothic and maritime heritage. The town's connection to literature, exploration, and the supernatural ensures that it remains a vibrant and culturally significant place for both residents and visitors alike. Conwy, a walled marvel of medieval Wales. Conwy is one of Wales's most well-preserved medieval towns, renowned for its historical significance and impressive medieval architecture. It is an extraordinary example of the fortifications built by Edward I during his conquest of Wales in the 13th century. The town's dramatic location, surrounded by imposing town walls and dominated by Conwy Castle, tells the story of a turbulent period in Welsh and English history. In the 13th century, Edward I, King of England, embarked on a campaign to conquer Wales and subdue its native rulers. Conwy was one of the key towns in his strategy, and the construction of Conwy Castle was central to the English king's efforts to assert control over the region. The town's walls and the castle itself were part of a broader system of fortifications known as the Iron Ring, designed to keep the Welsh people under control. The castle's construction was part of Edward's broader plan to create a series of fortresses throughout Wales that would act as symbols of English dominance. The walls of Conwy, which are among the best-preserved medieval walls in Europe, encircle the town and provide a tangible link to the medieval period. Conwy Castle is a masterpiece of medieval military architecture. Built between 1283 and 1289, the castle is an imposing structure designed to defend the town and its surrounding areas. The castle's design reflects the strategic importance of Conwy as a stronghold in the north of Wales. The castle's massive towers, fortified walls, and drawbridge are a testament to the military prowess of Edward I. The town of Conwy itself is entirely encircled by well-preserved medieval walls, which form one of the most complete and intact fortification systems in Europe. These walls, with their 22 towers and 3 gates, offer visitors the opportunity to walk in the footsteps of the medieval defenders and gain a sense of what life was like in a fortified town. In medieval times, Conwy's inhabitants would have lived within the protective walls, their lives shaped by the need for defense against external threats. The town would have been bustling with activity, from markets to workshops, with the castle and walls offering protection from Welsh rebels and rival factions. Today, Conwy offers visitors a glimpse into this medieval life. Its cobbled streets, narrow alleys, and traditional buildings create a timeless atmosphere, transporting visitors back to the days when the town was a stronghold in the turbulent history of medieval Wales. Despite the construction of Conwy Castle and other fortifications, the Welsh resistance to English rule was fierce and persistent. Conwy was no exception, and the town's history reflects the struggle of the Welsh people to maintain their independence in the face of English conquest. Over time, however, Conwy became integrated into the Kingdom of England, though its Welsh heritage remains a significant part of its identity. The town's history is one of both conflict and cooperation, as it witnessed the eventual blending of Welsh and English cultures. Today, Conwy stands as a symbol of this cultural fusion, with its Welsh traditions and English influences coexisting harmoniously. In modern times, Conwy has become a key destination for heritage tourism. The town's rich medieval history, coupled with its stunning castle and town walls, makes it a popular site for visitors interested in exploring Wales's past. The town has retained much of its historic charm, and the preservation of its medieval buildings and fortifications has made it a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Conwy's thriving tourism industry highlights the importance of heritage in modern-day Wales. The town's medieval legacy continues to shape its identity, drawing visitors from around the world who come to explore its historic streets, learn about its past, and experience its unique blend of culture and history. Across Britain, towns like Whitby and Conwy stand as enduring testaments to the country's rich and varied history. From the religious significance of Whitby Abbey to the military might of Conwy Castle, these towns reflect key themes of faith, power, conflict, trade, and education. As historical sites, they have preserved the stories of the past and continue to shape Britain's identity today. The preservation of these towns and their historic landmarks is crucial, as it allows future generations to understand the complexities of their shared history. At the same time, the challenge of balancing preservation with progress remains an ongoing issue. As the world changes, these towns continue to evolve, adapting to the modern era while maintaining a deep connection to their past. Through tourism, education, and a commitment to heritage, these towns will continue to serve as living museums, offering a window into the past and encouraging people to explore their local history.